Ladies and gentlemen, pray silence for Mr. Eric Clothier, father of the bride.
First of all, thank you all so very much for coming along and helping to make this young couple's most wonderful day in their lives. We know that. And when Dominique first got to know me, come up into my bedroom. I thought she's become an ornithologist. She thinks there's a martin, a bird, nested in the bedroom. Anyway, I rushed upstairs and suddenly this very melodic tones came over on the Natural World Tonight on the BBC, and I said, well, what's all the fuss about? It's Martin. Then we came to know Martin very well indeed, and we didn't rush quite so quickly up, but we did go upstairs to listen, I must say. And when he came to see us, and she said, well, this is Martin, introduced him. We were perhaps a little bit nervous because I think it was the first boyfriend, permanent boyfriend, she brought home. And we thought, well, this is Monique. When he'd gone, Monique and I said, well, that's a nice chap. And I don't think he will last. I don't think keep him very long. He's too nice. And so, but he did. Not only did he last, but of course we're here today. He in fact got closer and closer, and I must be fair, right from the start there was truly some sort of magnetism that tended to seem to bring them together. All the time. It was so natural. I mean, people have friends, they have boyfriends. This was so obvious that they had this natural magnetism. And so when he finally pushed the question and said he'd very much like to marry my daughter, I was very pleased. Seriously, we were both very pleased indeed. And of course we'd like to thank Janet and Don for enabling us, bringing us such a nice chap into our family with Dominique. And obviously it's a wonderful ceremony today in church. It's a wonderful reception we've had, and we look forward to them having a very happy and long life together. Finally, I would like to say that with Dominique, we still have bedrooms fitted out. So we are hoping that slowly things will move. We have an awful lot of people looking for a room in Hounslow. So we're hoping that we'll have the room to let. Anyway, I would like to propose a toast, a wonderful toast, all of you, be upstanding, for a toast to our bride and bridegroom, Dominique and Martin.
Dominique. I'm afraid it's my turn. I've actually written out my speech because I'm giving to the chicken to make the whole thing. So I feel very happy, a bit exhausted, but I've enjoyed the whole day very much, and it's been wonderful that you've all come. This feels a little unusual, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. I'd like to thank Eric for all those kind words, and also over the past 3 years for all their good wishes and their kindness. And I must say the quality of the cooking at Cafe Monique has been of an extremely high standard over all those 3 years, and so conveniently located just 10 minutes away from me in Ealing. Very, very thoughtful indeed. I'd also like to thank my mum and dad for all their love and support over the years, and in particular for their help in setting up the beautiful house in Ealing, which will now be the home for me and Dominique. I must also apologise to my dad for this weekend slightly upstaging his birthday, which was yesterday. My present would be in the post, but it will be soon. It's been a rather hectic past few days, I'm afraid. Friday, for example, began with a small argument, or perhaps a little disagreement over the seating plan for here. I'm sure you can imagine with 67 people, there were quite a few different possible combinations, but eventually we sorted something out, and that was sorted out in the morning, in the end. By 4 p.m. I was at a BBC meeting in central London, and at 10 p.m. I was at my first ballroom dancing lesson. Quite an unusual day. Now, I first properly met Dominique at a party at a house that I was living at the time. It was about midnight. Dominique had just arrived from another party, but she was completely sober. Now, I unfortunately was not completely sober. Probably I was gabbling incoherently about bond prices or coffee futures or something like that. But somehow this was novel enough to engage Dominique's interest. And when I phoned a few days later and promised tickets to a BBC radio quiz, so since then she's captivated me with her sense of fun, a wonderful smile, and also some bone-shaking high-speed drives in her blue Mini through lanes of Surrey. Really very high speed, but the Mini's shaky suspension just made you feel every pothole. Well, today, unfortunately, the blue Mini is at the garage, undergoing a major welding operation. But fortunately, Dominique is here, and she looks fantastic. So many thanks again to all of you for being here today. Dominique and I have been overwhelmed that so many of you have come from so far. From Aire, I think, is the furthest north, Montbard near Dijon in the south, and Zurich in the east. We particularly like to welcome Dominique's French relations, and we were so glad that your visits to Britain to see the English sections of the Tour de France cycle race could be especially extended. Now, looking outside, I'd also like to make this comment, and I shall pause for breath here. L'idée que le climat de l'Angleterre est toujours froid et pluvieux est une erreur. Oui, en fait, en été en Angleterre, le soleil brille toujours et il ne pleut jamais. Pronunciation. I hope it was understood by some people. Yes. And I'd like to thank the sole survivor here from my friends at Judd's School in Tunbridge, Julian, my best man, for not losing the rings, and also his highly professional singing during the signing of the registers in church. It was recorded though on this tape, courtesy of the BBC Business Programmes Department's latest digital tape recorder, and copies will be available, price £9.99 at selected record stores with the rap remix version also. So final thanks go to the bridesmaids, my sisters Juliet and Katie, and Dominique's niece Emily, who is... Thank you very much to them. So now they all look truly elegant in their beautiful dresses. And can we all now please stand to toast them? Would you lift your glasses and join me?
Well, Martin, thank you for those very, very kind words. And it's an enormous pleasure to be your best man. I was absolutely delighted when you asked me. It's funny actually because I say I was absolutely delighted, but of course it wasn't until a few weeks afterwards that it dawned on me that I'd actually have to make a speech. And those of you who know what I do professionally, which is I'm a political lobbyist, might know that I've written many, many speeches, but I've never actually made a speech myself. And I know how dull and boring very many speeches are, because most of the ones that I write are very dull. Anyway, I didn't really know how to go about this one, because it's a very personal thing. So Martin and I actually got together, and we thought what we'd do is we'd go through all the exciting things that had happened in Martin's life, all triumphs, the successes, and then we get together again and we'd pool our ideas and see how we went from there. So anyway, Martin came up with this. But I didn't use it all. Anyway, seriously, you can help me a lot by laughing in the right places.
Give us a scene.
Well, those of you who know both of us might know that we've known each other exactly half our lives. Now, I didn't want to let the first 14 years go past completely unmentioned. So, Martin, your mother asked me to do this.
Since I was 2 months old, almost as old as me.
And me. Well, where did we actually first meet? We first met on the rugby pitch at the Judd School, Tunbridge. Now, Martin had come back to Sevenoaks from Cheltenham. That's the town, by the way, not the ladies' college. And we were on this rugby pitch, and my eyesight was failing very badly at the time, and I didn't actually see Martin until the second half. I think I mistook him for one of the goalposts. But anyway, he came over to me, and he said, "What are you doing here?" That's the first words he asked. "What are you?" I asked. I said, "I'm a fullback." Nothing wrong with that. But Martin was incredulous and said, "But I'm a fullback too." But I'm afraid my knowledge of rugby met the irony of having 2 fullbacks on the same side completely passed me by. Anyway, Martin and I didn't really meet up again in the classroom until the 6th form, and we did Maths A-level together. And we had this teacher. His name was Washy. He was nicknamed Washy by one of our illustrious predecessors. And the reason was his very heavily wrinkled face reminded that imaginative student of clothes after they'd been spun in an automatic washing machine. And Washy used to subject the weaker students, myself, to differential calculus and Frobenius' method. Now, the stronger students were allowed to listen, and Martin always listened very, very attentively. He was sat next to me, his head was sort of cocked in the palm of his hand, and he was very intently scribbling notes down, and very unselfishly he used to pass them around to all the other students in the classroom. Jonathan's not here tonight, but he'll remember this. But was Martin really that angelic student we all thought? Actually, I happen to see that concealed in the inside left jacket pocket was a Benson transistor radio. And trailing up the arm was this cable with the earpiece, very conveniently, in the palm of his hand, thus. And there, Martin would sit through whole maths lessons, listening to the test match. Now, this was absolutely fine, until one day we settled down for another session of number crunching. The classroom was absolutely silent, until suddenly a voice from beside me shouted, "Wicket!" So, all I can say, Dominique, is watch out, you know, when you're lying there and Martin's there and looking, he's got this contented look on his face. Just make sure you rummage very carefully through his pyjamas and check that there isn't a Benson transistor radio lurking around. Well, the next encounter really was, we used to spend our holidays, this is the test match again, we used to spend our holidays at Canterbury watching Kent playing in the NatWest County Trophy. And about this time, Martin was introduced to, I better get this right, the Bill Frindle cricket scoring sheet. Now, does anybody know of the Bill Frindle cricket scoring sheet? Well, I can tell you why you don't know. It has 50 runs, partnership scores and durations, and a ball-by-ball account on this side by the bowling and by the batting. It's all filled in. I did it too. Anyway, well, I mean, Martin managed this very, very well, but I seem to have terrible trouble filling all this in. And it was to such an extent that one match I was determined, absolutely determined, that I would make a perfect score sheet because I'd never done it properly. I'd always given up. Now, so intent was I on making this perfect score sheet, flicking between pages, that one innings I actually missed seeing every single wicket. But this passed my companion completely by. He was in a world of his own. Anyway, at the end of one particular match, he saw his hero, Bill Frindle, in the commentary box, and we rushed over to where Frindle was emerging. He went up to him. "Hi, I'm Martin Webber, and I'm a great fan of your score sheets." And what do you think the great man said to him? "Go away, I'm far too busy to talk to you." Well, to those of us who know Martin well, it's no surprise that he went into broadcasting. I mean, I have it on good authority that he used to drag his mother round places like Ironbridge Gorge Museum with an old reel-to-reel tape recorder, producing programmes, and he even used to make copies of his own Radio Times. I take it he was too mean to buy his own. Anyway, when I knew him, even then he was putting the BBC's house in order. And I have here a letter to the controller of BBC World Service. "Dear Sir," the letter begins, "the BBC World Service undoubtedly broadcasts the best programmes available on shortwave. However, much of its advantage is quite unnecessarily lost because its schedule is nothing short of a mess." Now, this followed on months round at my parents' house when we sat down with my Sinclair, state-of-the-art Sinclair ZX Spectrum computer. Hours of work producing a programme that would allow listeners in Lapland to hear test highlights at a time convenient for them. Now, I should actually point out that Martin gives me full credit. He gives me full credit for my part. The following sheets. Look, can you see it? Can you see it at the back? The following sheets, he said, show a substantial improvement of the existing programme schedule despite my limited resources. Thank you, Martin. And some help from a small home computer. Well, anyway, I'm not sure what effect this had, but a week or so later, Martin dispatched another letter. "Dear Margaret." Now, who's Margaret? Now, we're not supposed to talk about old flames, are we? I think, reading the letter, Margaret is presumably an agony aunt. She's an agony aunt for those listeners who couldn't get enough of a particular programme. Martin evidently couldn't get enough of most programmes. Anyway, he finishes up, "I would just ask if you agree with my analysis to use your influence to try to get those concerned to at least consider some of my proposals." Well, did he ever do any better from inside the BBC? Well, I'm not sure. Anyway, I was slightly surprised in a way to be asked to be Martin's best man, in that I suppose for the couple of years before I hadn't really seen that much of Martin, and of course I thought I'd been working hard, and I thought he'd been working very, very hard with long hours at the BBC. And when we did meet up, he was always very, very pasty face, and very, 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 very tired. But when he announced his wedding to me, I knew why. So I hope that everybody here has enjoyed the day, and I think it's been a wonderful time, and I was absolutely delighted to be your best man. Thank you very much. And all I'd like to do is to wish Dominique and Martin an extremely happy life together.
I try to give you everything you need. We'll always be there for you. I don't believe